part of growth is the moment it stops feeling like growth and just starts feeling like you. No big announcements, no dramatic shift, no visible milestone, just alignment. And if I'm being honest, that phase is not always celebrated because it doesn't look exciting, but it's actually one of the most powerful places you can be. Welcome back to the Simpli Edit. This is my weekly space where we talk about lifestyle, mindset, and what it really looks like to build a life that feels good and works. I'm Stacy, founder of Simply Luxe, and every Sunday we sit down and have conversations like this one. And today we're talking about something I've been experiencing lately: identity lock. That moment where growth stops feeling like something you're chasing and starts feeling like who you are. Most people talk about growth like it's always exciting: new habits, new routines, new mindsets, a new version of you. And don't get me wrong, that phase is real. It's motivating, it's energizing, it gives you momentum. But what people don't talk about is what comes after that. And that is the stabilization phase, where the new habits aren't new anymore, where the routines feel normal, where the mindset shifts don't feel like breakthroughs. They just feel like your baseline. And that phase can feel quiet, sometimes even boring. But that's not regression, that is integration. I used to think if something felt repetitive, it meant I was not growing. But now I see it differently. Consistency feels boring because it's no longer unfamiliar. It's no longer challenging in the same way. But that's actually the sign that it's working. When something becomes easy to maintain, it's no longer a goal, it's the standard. And standards don't need hype, they just exist. Waking up and doing what you said you would do, managing your money with intention, showing up calmly. That doesn't feel exciting every day, but it builds something much stronger than excitement. It builds trust. This is where the things really started to shift for me. My routine stopped feeling like tasks and started feeling like me. Getting dressed intentionally, planning my day, protecting my time, being mindful about my spending. None of that feels like effort anymore. It feels like alignment. When your habits match your values long enough, they stop feeling like habits. They become identity. And once something becomes identity, you don't have to force it. You don't have to think about it. You move differently. I started noticing this in different areas of my life. My style became consistent, not because I had more clothes, but because I knew what felt like me. My schedule became more predictable, not because my life got smaller, but because it became more intentional. My relationships became more aligned, not because I cut everyone off, but because I refined proximity. Everything started to reflect who I was instead of who I was trying to become. And that's when you realize you're not building anymore, you're operating. I think one of the biggest shifts in this phase is letting go of the need to constantly reinvent yourself. There's this pressure to always be evolving, always upgrading, always becoming something. But at some point, reinvention becomes unnecessary because you've already aligned. You don't need a new version of yourself every season. Sometimes you just need to deepen into the version that already works. And that's where peace comes from. There's a different kind of peace that comes with identity lock. You're not second guessing everything. You're not constantly comparing. You're not easily pulled off track. You know what works for you, what doesn't, what you value, and what you're building. And that clarity, it simplifies everything. Decision making becomes easier, boundaries become clearer, and your life starts to feel lighter, not because you're doing less, but because you're doing what fits. So what happens after this phase? Because growth doesn't stop. It just changes. After identity lock comes expansion, but not chaotic expansion, refined expansion. You're not starting over, you're building on something stable. And that looks like deeper opportunities, more aligned decisions, intentional upgrades, and elevated experiences. But the foundation doesn't change, you do. Growth isn't just about becoming someone new, it's about becoming consistent enough to trust yourself. And once you trust yourself, everything else becomes easier. If you enjoy these conversations, subscribe and come sit with me every Sunday for the Simply Edit. This is where we talk about building a life that actually feels like you. And I'll see you in the next edit.